speech pathology and making sure that each kid, no matter what their disability or limitation might be, I don't know what that is, make sure that the kid is actually educated. Just one point as it relates to closing schools. We cannot believe that closing schools is a statement about our school system. What I would ask, because I think about the communities in the 41st district, every community needs to send their kids to public school. Everybody has got to support our public schools, and you know what? A lot of communities don't. And so we need to say, if today's the day that we're going to support public schools, we're going to do it by sending our kids there. All my life, I was in a public school in Baltimore City. I think that's where we all should be. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I had grave concerns initially about the school construction proposal and closing of the schools, because I know that across the country, not just in Baltimore City, in urban areas, there's a vast movement to close schools, and not just concern about a system that has for years inadequately educated the children and now to close the schools, but also concerns about who's traditionally teachers that have traditionally been teaching in the schools and what's going to happen to the staff and the teachers and people that have been employed. But frankly, after conversations and numerous constituents that came down to Annapolis pleading for support for this, the whole entire delegation being in support of it, but not just that. The fact that numerous conversations with the school system where we were constantly assured that there would be community engagement, that the schools that would be closed would be replaced with state-of-the-art, and in the 41st district, we have the two of the top schools, state-of-the-art schools in the entire city. We're the only district that is going to have two brand new schools that are state-of-the-art. The only district in the city. In addition to that, in working with the community, for example, Mr. Hannah, I think, said something about Walworth, where Bluefoot Drury Jefferson Academy is. That is actually an example of where there was an intention to close that school, but then in working with the community, we as a delegation fought against it with the community, and now it is not slated to close anymore, that along with Grove Park. So where there is strong community and where, frankly, the school board is wrong, we are able to reverse that decision if we can bear out in the data that the attendance level is where it should be to keep the school open. So I am not in favor of closing schools just to get the school construction money where it's not needed. But, you know, in some cases, some of them have to. I actually attended Garrison for 1 year, so I'm familiar with that school intimately. But the special education, definitely, I support that. And community school movement, that's the final thing I'll say, because I think I'm rambling here. But community school movement, these new schools that are coming up, that's distracting too. The community school movement, every single school that's being replaced or renovated is part of a design that's meant to be community school, meant to be from early in the morning to late at night, open the weekends, and family-centered, community-centered schools. And so that's a movement that is going simultaneously in parentarium with the new school. So I think that's something we can all look forward to.
First of all, I definitely agree with all the previous speakers, especially Senator Glad. She made reference to the real fact, and that is when we accepted that $1.3 billion, it came with a price tag or attached to it was that some schools would be closed. But it's all based on population. And Baltimore City used to have 27 legislators down in that. Now we have 18. Because we are shrinking, we have to make adjustments, and that's basically part of what we did. As far as the community schooling, every school in the district that is coming about will have in it an area for community involvement. Meeting room, 3,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet, and trying to get more involvement, and also trying to get corporations and all to come in and kind of adopt. Will Hannah was absolutely correct. That was the concept. That was what we had in mind when we worked on this. But I cannot say that we like closing all these schools, but it's also a fact of numbers. We got to make sure that you have enough people there for teachers to teach. I'm not talking about those just have a large classroom, just have a large classroom, but a lot of schools was underutilized. And again, working together works, and that's what we did in reference to what my colleague had mentioned, so it's no need to be being redundant on that. But we did say Walbrook, and then we did say Grove Park, after it was definitely on the slate to be closed. So, again, we have a very good team, you need to keep it. Thank you.
At the Grove Park Neighborhood Association meeting last week, the president thanked us for letting them know that the school was on the chopping block. They had told the PTA, the school board, the school system, had told the PTA, but they hadn't told the neighborhood group. We let them know about it. We went to meetings 2 consecutive nights at the school, one with the parents of the school, one with the PTA, one with the neighborhood. We testified, we got the job done. Similarly, when there were proposed cuts to the Ingenuity Project, the International Baccalaureate for high-achieving students, we testified before the school board, and those cuts were rejected by the board. There's level funding at Mount Washington, at Roland Park, at Western, even at Poly, and at City. But we go to work for our communities, is the bottom line. And the community school movement, worthy, but people need to be in the room at the community meetings, at each school to make that pitch. We're there, and we look forward to working with people who support the community school concept. Special ed, that we've been the subject, the city for quite some time was subject to a federal lawsuit. I believe that has finally been settled, but there's always room for improvement. And I think one of the very positive things about what we did last week with high-achieving students is, as we said at the time, 2 or 3 years ago, Dr. Alonso's concern was keeping dropouts in the system, not letting kids leave the system and go out on the streets and so on, and keep them in the classroom. Well, now we're addressing that problem. We need to continue to do so, but we're also, the focus most recently is on our high-achieving students. That's a very positive sign for the system.
The community schools concept is a good one, I believe. I was at the first meeting that Forest Park had a couple of weeks ago for the community school concept, and there weren't any other legislators there. The concept deals with taking care of the whole person and dealing with other issues in the community surrounding the school. So there was a comprehensive package given out about statistically what's going on. So I think it's a good concept and something that's needed. And the way the schools were slated to close, I really don't understand the rhyme or reason. I don't think it was just population, but I think that is partly the product of not having a partially elected school board. We have a school board that just runs rampant and does what they want. And it's been going on for years, and I think if you had a partially elected one, you would have different input and maybe some better ideas, or at least a cross-section of ideas that might produce better results. Special ed should always be a priority with the schools. All children need to be educated and have the resources that they need for whatever level that they can learn, so that they can be productive also, and have the means to get in and out of the buildings and move about easily. So I think, and when you talk about teamwork, I keep hearing teamwork. To me, if you're committed to the community, then you can work with whoever's on your team. It's just like having a change of a principal or department head in the school. Does that mean that the school can't function? No, you just learn to work with other team players. So I hear that, and I understand what it means, but I don't understand why there should be such a limitation on flexibility.
Thank you. Now we'll start with Ms. Bell. What are your views on legalizing marijuana?
Well,
1 minute, I'm sorry. We're back to
it's a 1 minute question or you that all the times that we have had votes on legalization of marijuana in Annapolis, I've had difficulty in figuring out what the answer should be. And the reason I always was having difficulty was that I could not understand how a legalized marijuana would help the black children in Baltimore City. And what I thought was, sometimes if you had marijuana that was legal, do you think the police officers would know that it's 2 grams, 10 grams, or 5 grams, and we shouldn't arrest these kids? I couldn't figure that out. So I had voted for it, and I voted against it. But I will tell you today, because I have listened to my team, and I have heard their explanations, today I will be supporting legalization of marijuana.
With proper regulations, and I think that we need to, I think Maryland, this session wasn't ready to legalize it. I think that it needs to be studied and looked at, because there's a lot of things that need to be put in place before we take such a measure. I think that we should do that. What the biggest concern that I personally have about it is having had to live most of my life now through the so-called war on drugs, which has been, I wouldn't even say a colossal failure, because my great judge at Kirkford once said that you can't concede a war that you didn't honestly fight. I am just concerned that once we possibly legalize it and regulate it, that the same people that have suffered from the criminalization of it are now given an opportunity to now become licensees and benefit, and it's not the same kind of unfair, predatory system that has happened with criminalization, and the same profiteers profit, and others are left out of that as well. So I think that we need to study it, and I'm in favor of that.
I'm not sure if I'm sitting here right now, based on the work that we did on the decriminalization of the marijuana, and knowing how that was a playing field in reference to, especially the black community, 83% of those coming in contact was actually end up with a criminal record versus 17% of the white, when we know that it was consumed at the same level. But I don't know exactly what that really means in terms of legalization versus decriminalization. So I think the jury's still out on that, but I'm open on it, and I will, just like we did with the decriminalization, we would look at it very carefully, and I would definitely do what I think the community would want done.
I think we need to learn from the experience in the 2 states thus far that have legalized marijuana. Big story yesterday in the New York Times about issues that have arisen in terms of implementation in Colorado. Another thing that gives me grave concern is that the tobacco industry sees this as an option, an avenue for them to increase their profits. And I've been in Annapolis for 32 years now, and there are very few black hats. A lot of things are gray, but the tobacco industry, they are bad actors, and their interest is not our children's interest in terms of legalization. So that causes me great concern as well.
I think that the step that we've taken at this point for the decriminalization of marijuana is a good one. That allows the flexibility of the young offenders with a low amount of marijuana not to have a criminal record. I'm very proud of the fact that the medical marijuana bill did pass, and it's under my mother's name based on my sister's efforts, the Natalie Ember Prade Marijuana Commission. So I think that was very, very important, and I commend the delegation for passing that. But the decriminalization will allow lower incarceration levels and lower amounts of time that's charged to the offender, that in effect eliminates their choices of being able to seek full employment because they have to check the box.